on DC News Now at 5, a federal judge could lift the order protecting Kilmar Abrego Garcia, clearing the way for his removal to Liberia. The critical hearing and what's at stake.
Long lines of D.C. residents wrap around the block as people rush to apply for emergency rental assistance. Why they say the application process this year is a disaster.
Plus, showers working their way into the DMV for your Friday. Meteorologist Brittany Ward is with us with more on when you need to grab your umbrella. Then, remembering former Vice President Dick Cheney.
He was a giant to the end, a lion of a man who loved and served this great republic.
More from his funeral today and a look back at his legacy. And 'tis the season to stretch your holiday budget, and Dollar Tree is ready to help. How to deck the halls without breaking the bank.
You're watching the station covering all of the DMV. This is DC News Now.
Developing in Maryland now, a judge is deciding whether she should lift a court order that has until now prevented the government from removing Kilmar Abrego Garcia. Thanks for joining us for DC News Now here at 5. I'm Elisa Gale. Mark Hall has the evening off. While the Maryland father was wrongly deported to El Salvador back in March, despite documented fears for his safety and a court order meant to protect him. He was transferred to a mega prison there, and act federal officials later called an administrative error before being returned to the U.S., where he now faces human smuggling charges from a 2022 traffic stop. But while that case plays out, he has been detained by ICE again. And today, his attorneys say the government is trying to sidestep the courts to push through his removal to a third world country. And they argue this is retaliation for his fight to overturn that initial unlawful deportation. DC News Now's Randy Bass joining us live outside the federal courthouse in Greenbelt. Randy, there are some questions surrounding whether certain documents and orders discussed in this case even exist.
Yes, Annalisa, and no ruling today coming from Judge Polizinas after nearly 4 hours of testimony and back and forth from both sides of that courtroom today, centering on whether there is an actual final order of removal for Kilmar Abrego Garcia to allow him to be deported to a third country, along with testimony from an ICE official, or really the lack thereof. More on that in a moment, though. Both the government and Abrego Garcia's team agree a formal final removal order does not exist. But the government says a withholding of removal order from several years ago, that does exist, implying a final order of removal too. His team of attorneys says no final order of removal means no grounds to hold him, and he needs to be released. Testifying today, though, ICE Acting Assistant Director of Enforcement and Removal Operations, John Cantu. Following his testimony, the judge said he knew, quote, nothing about anything, and that it was extremely troubling. Cantu testified he's only been on the job for 3.5 weeks and had no direct involvement in the Abrego Garcia case until he signed off on the declaration earlier this month. Cantu also testified that parts of a declaration he signed regarding Abrego Garcia's possible removal to Costa Rica was partially drafted and written by someone else, and that he did not know what parts of it meant, and that he has no direct or independent knowledge of whether Costa Rican officials actually changed their tune and would no longer accept him. When it comes to sending Kilmar Abrego Garcia to Liberia, as the government wants to do, Cantu told the court he has seen a, quote, diplomatic note from Liberia saying the country will accept him and that the country will not persecute or torture him if he is removed from the U.S. and sent there. Attorneys for Kilmar Abrego Garcia speaking after today's hearing, saying he agreed to be deported to Costa Rica back in August, and saying they feel the push to send him to Liberia is retaliatory.
I can't think of any reason why we're still fighting out this case and why he's still behind bars in a detention center in Pennsylvania when the government could have sent him to Costa Rica months ago, a country that has offered him protection.
Now, the judge in this case, Polizinas, she says many of the decisions that will come from today's hearing will depend on whether she finds that final order of removal actually exists. From there, she can decide whether he will ultimately be released from ICE custody or deported to a third country. In Greenbelt, I'm Randy Bass, DC News Now.
All right, Randy, thank you. And breaking right now, a federal judge ordering the Trump administration to end the National Guard deployment in D.C. The district court judge saying President Trump's takeover of D.C. violates the Constitution and illegally intrudes on local officials' law enforcement authority there. Now, the judge adding the president only has the power to call up the Guard, quote, through the exercise of a specific power outlined in state law, not for, quote, whatever reason. But the same judge did put her order on hold for 21 days to allow for an appeal there. The D.C. Attorney General's office has previously said troops are likely to remain in D.C. through at least next summer. Now, this is a developing story. We'll be sure to bring you the very latest online and on air here on DC News Now. But for now, you can head to dcnewsnow.com. Well, take a look at this. Long lines in Northeast D.C. there. Frustrated applicants wrapping all the way around the block for emergency rental assistance. Tensions high as people face loading errors on the website, and it now says appointment scheduling is paused to process applications. Many people today also feeling disappointed by public officials.
Donald Trump is building a ballroom, and you mean to tell me you can't help us pay for our rent?
DC News Now's Liberty Simmons is in Northeast Washington now with more on the frustration there and why police were called out.
This massive line just underscores how great the need is for emergency rental assistance. The application process this year is by appointment only, in person, and one ANC commissioner I spoke with is calling this a huge mess. Washingtonians in desperate need of help to pay their rent are facing even greater hurdles this year as they can no longer apply online.
I'm not understanding why you shut down the internet so we can't get through just to stay in the line to get an appointment. And my rent is due.
The D.C. Department of Human Services saying the move was made to increase transparency, improve eligibility verification, and better manage limited program funding.
It's a really undignified situation, and it's not the right way to deal with the cost of living crisis that we have in the city.
At one point this morning, police arrived to help manage the crowds.
It has gotten heated. I mean, we have disabled people, waiting in line. We have kids waiting in line.
The district's emergency rental assistance program helps low-income residents cover overdue rent, security deposits, or first month's rent. But advocates say they are furious that funding keeps shrinking each year.
Last year we had $27 million to address ERAP. This year, when the mayor sent the budget over, it was less than $10 million. Now we at $8 million.
Now, to be eligible for ERAP funding, you must make less than 40% of the area median income, have experienced an emergency, and if you're applying for overdue rent, you must currently live in that overdue unit. For now, in Northeast D.C., Liberty Simmons, DC News Now.
All right, Liberty, thank you. And Brittany, yeah, people definitely looked a bit chilly out there. They had their coats on. Some people just trying to stay warm. How's it looking now?
Yeah, overall, it was a gloomy day across the area. That's going to be the trend as we head through your evening. Those gray skies sticking around through much of the area tonight, and then even heading into our Friday. At least for the most part, we will be dry. We're heading outside, a live look out towards the Washington Monument. Overcast skies. That's what we're holding on to, but at least we are dry. We are going to start to see rain, though, work its way into the region as we head through your Friday. Temperature-wise, still fairly cool. We're sitting at 49 degrees right now in D.C., 48 as you head over there to Lexington Park. You're sitting at the 50-degree mark right now in Culpeper, 41 currently there in Martinsburg, West Virginia. Satellite and radar showing you the wider picture. We're going to be keeping an eye out on a warm front right now that's passing through the Tennessee Valley. They're actually seeing embedded thunderstorms with this warm front. This exact front will lift north into our area tomorrow. That's going to be sparking up isolated showers at first tomorrow afternoon, and then as we head through midday into Friday evening, that's when we start to see more widespread rain across the region. So heading home right now, not looking bad. We are going to be holding on to the upper 40s through much of the evening, giving you the green light because we will be dry. But again, we are tracking that rain as we end out the work week. So keep it here. We'll break down the timing and what to expect, Annalisa, coming up.
All right, Brittany, thank you. In the district now, 100 celebrating the life and legacy of former Vice President Dick Cheney. A service was held earlier today at the National Cathedral. The service was full of dignitaries, including former Presidents Joe Biden and George W. Bush. Notable speakers including Cheney's family members, including his 7 grandchildren and daughter, former Wyoming Representative Liz Cheney.
As my dad left this earth, his last words were to tell my mother he loved her. And now, all of us who loved him so dearly say to him, "Good night, sweet Dad. May flights of angels sing thee to thy rest."
Noticeably absent, President Donald Trump, who was not invited to that service. Coming up in our next half hour, our Kristen Escow will have more on this tribute to Cheney today. Well, a corporal with the Hyattsville Police Department has now been arrested and placed on leave. Prince George's County State's Attorney Tara Jackson says he is charged with sexual abuse of a minor, second-degree rape, as well as other sex-related charges. The Hyattsville Police Department responding, saying that Jonathan Monhay has been with the department now for 5 years, and they are also launching their own investigation. In Metro News, weekend commuters should brace themselves for interruptions. The green, orange, and silver lines will see services single-track between certain stations. The yellow line service has changed with trains running every 8 minutes between Huntington and Greenbelt. Red and blue line service remains uninterrupted. WMATA says they'll be conducting some maintenance. And turning to the Commonwealth, State Senator Jennifer Carroll says she has introduced a bill to repeal Virginia's right-to-work law ahead of next year's General Assembly session, a move she says may protect Virginia's families and lower costs. Now, the right-to-work laws ban mandatory union membership as a requirement to be hired, but even if the bill repealing the law passes in the state legislature, it may not become law. Governor-elect Abigail Spanberger says she does not support a complete repeal. Republican Senator Glenn Sturtevant saying he hopes Spanberger keeps her word there.
Repealing right to work, it creates a situation where if a union comes in and takes over a workplace, you will then have to join the union mandatorily and pay union dues. Otherwise, you will be out of a job if you don't. And that's not fair.
The bill to repeal right to work will be considered by lawmakers when the General Assembly convenes in January.